Hey guys, sorry about the portrait mode. It's man, going live is so glitchy. There's so many technical things to go over. Hopefully, it doesn't look too ridiculous on whatever you're viewing it on. This was definitely an impromptu Q&A, and the only reason why is because I had everything all set up here for. I just recorded something, a video that I wanted to get done. I got all the lighting set up here. If it was in landscape, you'd be able to see some of the other things I have here, including this guy. Hi guys. How does it look? Is it just portrait, like just crammed in the middle of the screen? Does it look ridiculous? Don't normally film videos in portrait. I suppose it looks okay on your phone though. Hello, Angelos. George. It's a bit cramped, yes. It's so the thing about when you instantly go live, you press that go live button, it's like, boom, there's no going back. So I can't change it now unless I just shut the whole thing off. So we're stuck in portrait mode. Hey guys, so I'm just gonna move that a little bit closer so I can read it a little bit better. And hopefully you have some questions for me. If this turns out okay, I'd love to be able to share this video after the fact, to publish it on the YouTube channel, but that's, in case it goes sideways, I won't. Hey, Jeff. From Chicago, Italy. I'm about to go to school. Yeah, sorry, it's a Thursday at 10:30. How's that for a random Q&A session? I was just in the mood. So tomorrow I'm heading to a star party in Pennsylvania. It's the Black Forest Star Party. I'm so excited about that. It's actually looking really clear there tonight, and I thought about going today, but I still have to prepare I'm doing a talk and I have to finalize that. I haven't been feeling well too, so I want to rest up, and then I'm going to go tomorrow, and hopefully it's still clear tomorrow. From Hungary. Nice. I had a friend from Hungary. I'll be there tomorrow. Nice, Matthew. Okay, I'll see you there. Let's shake hands. India. Bob. Okay, what's up? Greetings from the UK, from Norway. Wow, that's amazing. Really don't think about how many countries these videos reach as I'm filming them. That's for sure, until moments like this, it becomes real. From Turkey, Israel. Holy smokes! Please, I've noticed you there. And Tony's astronomy from Southern California and Turkey. India loves you. Bulgaria. New York City. EQR Pro mount doing Lamar. It's doing very well. It's probably maybe my favorite mount I've ever had. If you could see this in here, this is new and exciting. And this is your fault, not exactly your guys' fault, but the commenters on my Star Tracker video. People just absolutely roasted me for not talking about the Star Adventurer Pro in my Star Tracker video, and that was just because I'd never used it before. And sure enough, Skywatcher was like, you know what, you need to start using one of those. So my connection there sent me one to try out that I'm hoping to use at the Star Party tomorrow, and here it is. I just got it all set up. From Greece, what's up? I see you there, Tony. Just wanted to say hi. I appreciate that. Fall arrived in Europe. Yeah, so it has here too, the cooler temperatures, for sure. And you know what? September is traditionally such a great month for astronomy, but it was wet September and cloudy. We did not get too many clear skies. I did finish a project on the Heart and Soul Nebula, finished the other night. I collected some RGB and it turned out really good. I've never captured those two objects together like that, and that was on the Rokinon 135 lens here that you can kind of see. All right, inspiration to get into this profession. So there's two. So for astrophotography, I didn't really have a particular inspiration. It was just looking at the pictures online And then I just thought to myself, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get photos like that for myself. And I know a lot of you are in the same kind of situation. As for YouTube and creating videos like this, my inspirations were a big one was Casey Neistat, who's like a vlogger and an amazing YouTuber, just sharing stories about his life. And so he's a guy that I really look up to, and I was able to meet actually a couple of years ago. So he's a huge inspiration for video and everything. You have to go to school. Sorry, Bob. I know it's rough timing. I have the luxury of this is work for me now, sitting here doing stuff like this. Okay, some tips for the 127 EQ, the Celestron. Okay, that's is that the Astromaster one that comes with the tripod and it's a reflector? That's ZG32. If you can answer that, I'll try and help you there. What's your educational qualification? So I went to art school. That's my qualification. So yeah, I went to school for graphic design and the arts, and changed career paths along the way to marketing, and then you know, somehow ended up being an amateur astrophotographer and YouTuber. That's my educational background. The Power Seeker. Okay. So that's going to be, I hate to break it to you, I think it's going to be tough for astrophotography, because I don't know if that telescope and mount was particularly meant for it. I think it'll deliver some impressive views. You could definitely shoot the moon through the eyepiece and the planets and Jupiter and Saturn. Long exposure deep sky is going to be really tough with that setup. I believe it's just a stationary tripod mount. And even I wouldn't recommend adding a motor to that. I would change directions if you want to get away from planetary photography. Almost the same background, Jeff? That's crazy. Yeah, so it's funny, my most recent job before doing this full time was a content marketer. I was a content marketing manager, which is, you know, creating content to market something, right? Which is funny because all I do is produce content for Astro Backyard. So it was really in line with what I wanted to do, you know, full time. Which Canon to use for 600D or 800D? I don't know which models those are exactly, because they might be called something here in North America, but they're both going to be fine. You're splitting hairs deciding which one. It's like, what's better, the T7i or the T3i? For astrophotography, a lot of those features that they've added aren't going to apply to astrophotography. You need a good noise profile, and basically noise is the thing you're going to have to worry about the most between cameras. Okay, 600D. The T3i is exceptionally good. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. The T3i is excellent, but I believe the newest Rebel is fine too. My pleasure to share my experience. It's a joy to share this with you. It wouldn't be that nearly as fun if I didn't get to share this experience with you. Cheap scope for beginners. So I assume you want to get into astrophotography, so it's not cheap. What I have hiding behind door number 2, I'd recommend something like this. If you're getting into astrophotography, this is the Zenith Star 61. It's basically the smallest apo refractor you're going to get. I wouldn't recommend anything else for beginning astrophotography than a compact wide field refractor, and the Z61 fits the bill. I know that High Point Scientific has their version of it. It's an apochromatic doublet, something like this. It doesn't have to be this one, and even this is like $600-700, but that's considered cheap in the astrophotography telescope world. Hi from Italy last night. Okay, let's see. Wow, there are a lot of questions coming in hot, guys. You know what? That's where it helps the portrait. I can see more comments at once. Edge HD and okay, so yeah, you're interested in seeing all the stuff I've never really done before. So off-axis guiding, I have experienced that a little bit. Rudy's right here, by the way. And an Edge HD, so a big SCT telescope. Don't have much experience with that. Just the RASA is the closest thing to an SCT. Newtonians. Hey, thanks, Will. Got a chance to meet you, Cherry Springs, and somewhere. All I can say is a pleasure, and keep up the awesome work. Thank you so much, Will. That means a lot. Very nice of you. Oh, between the 100 and the 132. That's, you know what? I can't pick which one I like better. I do like both of those scopes. Someone asked about the Esprit 100 and the William Optics FLT 132. I mean, you would think the obvious choice would be the 132 because it's bigger and it's got more aperture and everything. But the Esprit 100 I get to use more often because it's just so much more practical. I can use some of the smaller mounts for it. So that's something that I don't know. Maybe people do talk about it, but I think they forget. You think to yourself, okay, well, all I need is this bigger scope. I can go deeper. I can pull these objects in closer. But then everything that comes with that, including you might have to upgrade your mount that can handle it. And if it is a mount that can, you might be pushing it near its limits. And then your tracking accuracy and your guiding and all that becomes magnified. So there's something to be said with stepping back a little bit. I love wide field astrophotography. And if anything, I've been doing more camera lens work stuff too. Like I love wide. When did you love astronomy? Not until much later in life. I didn't start caring about space until I was about 25 years old. Do I know anything about Meade telescopes? I've owned two Meade telescopes. One was, I can't remember, something really old. I recently had the quadruplet 70 millimeter not too long ago. It was an excellent little refractor. Good portable mount. Man, they're coming in hot. Oh, that was a good question. Do I plan on doing anything more for astronomy other than imaging, like in terms of research and near Earth objects and stuff like that? I do find that very fascinating. I don't have I'm not really set up for that right now, but definitely when I get an observatory, not if, when I get an observatory, I will explore that side of things, the scientific side. We're actually contributing to science by making small discoveries and stuff like that. Paying attention to objects like that. Canon L lens. I saw someone say, getting started in astrophotography, I just have a Canon L lens. Do I need a telescope? No, you should use that lens. So the tough part about camera lenses for astrophotography is the focus is a big thing because they weren't really meant for that. Just pulling this red cat to get some screen time in here. Holy smokes! What is it called? Just some little eye candy there. The thing about camera lenses, yeah, focus can be tough to any light jostle will lose focus as opposed to a telescope with a precision focuser that you can lock, and then the mounting hardware. But otherwise, a lot of these, especially the Canon L series lenses, can take some amazing astrophotos. Mexico. I want to go back to Mexico soon. They are coming in too fast for me to read them. We've got 224 people on here. Do I get bored with the limited number of astro targets? So it's interesting because I have had the feeling lately where it's just like, have I shot all of the bright targets? Because I pretty well have. Whereas in the early days, it's like, oh wow, I'm shooting the Rosette Nebula for the first time. Michael, how's it going, buddy? Thank you so much. No worries for missing the start. I really appreciate that. I recognize that name. A lot of familiar faces in here. So yeah, there's nothing like the beginning when you're shooting Orion for the first time, or you're shooting like Pleiades and stuff. It's so exciting early on. Jim, holy smokes, buddy, you coming tomorrow? Was planning on Cherry Springs this weekend. I gotta go back to that. What did you say? Not going based on the forecast. Oh, don't say that. Tomorrow's gonna be good. It has to be. I want to shoot something in Taurus wide field. Jim, that's too bad. I was hoping to see you, and I hope the forecast improves. I really appreciate the super chat, buddy. It was great running into you last time at Cherry Springs. I'm sure I'll see you again at a future star party. So yeah, there's endless targets. There's obscure targets that people haven't shot before. So there's always something new up there to shoot. And even if it's a target you've shot before, you can shoot at different focal lengths and group it in with other targets. And there's an endless sea of possibilities of objects to shoot no matter what location you're in. And then when you do get tired of those, it's the perfect excuse to travel and to shoot from a new location for all new objects. So I'm looking forward to that. When I shoot everything in the Northern Hemisphere, that's when it's time to take a 6-month trip to visit Dylan O'Donnell in Australia. Holy smokes. Favorite DSO? That's tough. I do have some favorites. I can't pick one though. Have I used a mirrorless camera? No, but Canon announced that, or they unofficially announced that the EOS RA is coming out next year, and I believe the EOS R is a mirrorless camera, and it's so the A is for astrophotography. So that's going to be Canon's next astrophotography camera. And hi, buddy. And I'm certainly interested. So that might be my first mirrorless camera. I think that's a mirrorless. I have nothing against them and the amazing Sony cameras and stuff. It's just, you know what, once you're tied in with a particular brand like Canon, I have all these Canon lenses. That's pretty much why I've stuck with them and their DSLRs. Being creative in astrophotography, so you know the different color palettes that you can use and the color mapping, you can shoot the same object that people have done to death in a completely different way. That's one way to be creative. And then the framing up of the targets and the mosaics. There's some really amazing stuff happening on Instagram right now. If you follow Andrew Klinger comes to mind, some of the stuff, he did a shot in Scorpius recently, which was like, I've never seen it shot quite that way before. And it was an amazing photo. I believe it was an APOD. So stuff like that is just, you never would have thought to shoot an object like that. And it was extremely wide field. I'm seeing no comments. Okay, there they go. They all came back. There's a brief break in comments. Let's see, what was that? I saw a channel member. Time to check out Nina. And okay, I have not tried Nina yet. So Nina is the open source new imaging software that I'm very interested in because it's open source. And I actually watched a really impressive video about its features and the user interface, and it looked really great. So just being in my position, I have a lot of people asking me to use their software, and I would love to use them all and explore them all. But for me, it takes time to really sink my teeth into using a new software and understanding it. And before I can talk intelligently about it, it takes a lot of time. So I've been playing with the Sky X, which is so robust and so amazing from Software Bisque. And but I just haven't talked about it yet because I just don't know enough about it. Pastime when the equipment is running. So when the equipment is running in the background, that's like pretty much my favorite time of all. When I'm capturing pictures in the background, like life is good because I know I'm collecting something, I'm looking forward to the object, I'm thinking about processing it. As for what I do during that time, for me, honestly, it's a lot of filming in the background and setting up lighting gear. My favorite thing used to be, I would have TeamViewer on my tablet while my telescope is running, and I would play Xbox, I would play Skyrim or something, and just checking and watching the subs come through. Like that was kind of having a beer. That's a nice time. I know a lot of you guys like to do that too. It's just like, it's a very fun moment. Without it, I don't know of any way of connecting a Canon DSLR without a T adapter. No, that's an inexpensive part. You can get them on Amazon for prime focus astrophotography. ADD, 18 to 135, trouble getting pictures of the Andromeda Galaxy. So yeah, I think I know the 75 to 300 millimeter lens you're talking about is not a great lens. I would stick to 135 should work though. Keep that lens at 135 millimeter. And you said you had trouble getting pictures of the Andromeda Galaxy. So that one's on the easier side to find. It shows up as a smudge even in a 5-second exposure. Focus is tough, but at 135 you should be able to frame that up. And then it's really a matter of the processing to really tame those stars back and pull out the full spiral of that galaxy. It's really remarkable if you look at the before and after of what some of these objects look out of the camera to the final image. I really experienced that firsthand with the Heart and Soul Nebula the other day. My RGB image, you just see a faint glow of like where the objects are, but then I collected images in hydrogen alpha through that astronomic filter that I mentioned in an earlier video, and that just exploded the image. Then the emission nebula just jumped off the screen. So there's a lot to it. Have I thought about using reflectors? So I did for a brief period use an 8-inch Orion F4 reflector, the astrograph. Took some pictures with it. It was good for my best M51 Galaxy photo was taken with that. The thing I don't like about that, it was just so big and bulky, and then the collimation. And it wasn't that Newtonians aren't great when you have them dialed in, and to be honest, they're big light buckets, so you can collect a lot more light than you can with a refractor. There's no way around that. It just came down to what experience I wanted. I didn't want to have to collimate regularly, and I just fell in love with refractors. So it was just a preference. So if the two were sitting there, I would always reach for the refractor first. I've seen amazing work with Newtonians, and Diego Colonello comes to mind when I think of amazing work with a Newtonian. Oh, am I way behind? Yeah, I'm way behind. Holy smokes, I'm behind. Kyle, thank you so much. Again, weather finally cooperated, able to get back out first time in 2 months. Thanks for doing the Q&A. Yeah, no problem. Happy to keep you awake. And Everett, holy smokes, I'm so behind on questions. Guys, I apologize. Okay, now we're up to speed. Limited budget, Skywatcher, Optron, Skywatcher doublet, D500. Interested in AP. Wow, you really crammed it all in there. Honestly, I didn't really understand that the way you worded it there. Getting to DSO setups. There it is, the Pixin site. Not yet. No, I know Pixin site is great, but I'm going to keep using Photoshop because I just love it so much. And that reminds me of people like to, when I talk about something on my channel, they like to say, there's my coffee maker going off. They like to say, well, why would you do that instead of this? Like, clearly Pixin site is so much better than Photoshop. Why would you use Photoshop? It's just what I use. It's what I like using and what I'm comfortable with. There's a lot of things that I do that aren't the best way of doing it. And the same goes for gear. It's like, well, why are you using that when you could have been doing this? Like, everyone has their own preference, right? Like I understand there's better stuff out there than what I'm using, but if I'm getting results and I'm having fun doing it, then I'm really going to stick with that for a long time. And it's going to take a lot to dissuade me away from it, to switch until I feel like I've hit a wall, and I'm still not at that wall. Thanks, George. I appreciate that. What kind of views would you get with Saturn's rings with a $200 telescope? So a $200 telescope, I would imagine you could get, I think that Celestron Power Seeker is probably around there. You could definitely see Saturn's rings with a reflector like that on a little mount. Whether you would see, you need a high quality eyepiece. As you got deeper and deeper with that eyepiece, you would see a much fuzzier view, and it would be shaky as well. Whether you could see that the gap in the rings, I believe you could under the right conditions with a $200 telescope. Hopefully I keep this, there we go. Mark, hey, thanks Mark. I recognize you from Twitter. I really appreciate that. Skywatcher EvoStar E72. I would imagine, I have not used that scope. I've heard good things. I've seen images taken out of it. I think, does Razine use that scope, or he did? I've heard good things about those Skywatcher doublet refractors. The Esprit is costly. I remember, so Skywatcher sent me one of those. New member, Sean, you're a member. Thanks, buddy. Sean Maloney. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, so the Esprit was sent to me from Skywatcher. They wanted me to test it out, and I'm still demoing it, and it ended up being a scope that I use almost most often. And I was surprised at how pricey they are. It makes sense. I mean, that's a really amazing telescope. You'll see some of these, some guys like, oh, who is it? Oh, I can't think of his name right now, but some real uh, semi-pro amateur astrophotographers are using those Esprit telescopes because they are so notoriously good. Great, the stars look great in them, and I was super happy with my results with it. Thank you, Sean. I see you have your Orion badge now. You're an official member. No, I never see anyone using the Rudy emojis. Are you seeing those available? You can put a little Rudy face in there. I created the custom emojis. It's supposed to be clear here tonight, actually. So I'll be setting up. I think I want to demo the Star Adventurer tonight. There they are, Kyle. Thank you, all three. I love it. And what is you have the Lagoon Nebula icon? So he's a channel member. Awesome. So if you see those little icons of the Astro Addict is a member too. Okay. Do you think M31 will look good with the multi-narrowband filter? That is a great question. I've thought about doing that. So shooting M31, it's a broadband galaxy target. You wouldn't typically think of shooting it narrowband unless you just wanted to get the HA to get those, the pink nebula in the galaxies. But a multi-narrowband filter, as you know, lets in even more, but blocks out a lot of light pollution. It'd be very interesting to see. I think you could use it to layer those details into an existing RGB broadband version of it, but I wouldn't just shoot it in that. It would look a little odd. I have seen some pictures done that way, and it's not that traditional blue looking, cool looking Andromeda galaxy that you're maybe expecting, but I think it'd be very interesting to see what that would look like. So Astro Addict, I will keep watching your channel and maybe you will share a video about that. If you guys haven't subscribed yet to Astro Addict, he is cut from the same mold. It's funny, I saw his one video, he mentioned that a big inspiration for shooting the videos is the music, and it gets him creative, and it starts with a song and he'll want to capture an amazing picture to go with the music, and that's precisely how I feel about creating videos. And it was just interesting to hear someone else say that. Holy smokes, I missed some more super chat. Jeff Horn, thanks, buddy. Please look out for my M31 photo later today. L Enhance and L Pro, L Enhance for H Alpha and the blues. Oh, I do look forward to seeing that, Jeff. Okay, so where are you going to share that? Are you going to make sure I get that? Let me know where it's going to be. I do want to see that. And there's a Rudy. Okay, Skywatcher Star Adventure. Oh man, these combination questions, people have a fixed budget, and I totally side with you for that. I remember the first real tracking mount I got was a Celestron CG5, and it was like $800. I got it shipped here from, I don't even remember where I bought it. And to me, I remember thinking, I didn't have the money. I think it was credit card. Am I really shelling out $800 for an equatorial mount that I don't even know how to use? Am I jumping into this? Like, people are like, what did you buy? You spent $800? But I just had faith in, I need a reliable mount if I want to start getting into this hobby. And it was kind of like, that's what put me over the edge. It's like, okay, I've invested this money in a mount now. There's no going back. And sure enough, I was rewarded with it. I took some of my first amazing images with that mount. So I get it when you have this fixed budget and you're saying, okay, well, I can spend $300 on a scope, $600 on a mount, and this much on a camera. So I totally feel for you. It's really tough to recommend a full, complete package like that for you, because there's so many different options to take. I will say though that the two mounts you do see here, the Star Adventurer Pro and let's see if I can do this. No, it'll fall over. And the Ioptron Skyguider Pro, if you're coming from a photography background, you own a DSLR and you want to start taking track night sky shots, you really won't be upset with getting a Skyguider Pro or a Star Adventurer Pro. The hardest part is finding objects at that point, but the brightest targets aren't too bad. Oh man, some specific questions about the new RedCap 51. Which set of screws to loosen the install filter? Okay. I remember, so William Yang sent me a personal message about this which is the only reason I knew at first. So here's the red cat, and what someone was mentioning is that loosening the screw to get this inside. I'm not sure if they've changed this part of it too. This is the early edition red cat. Let me just take the camera off. Sorry if I'm missing questions for this, but I actually don't have a filter in there right now. So here's how the adapter comes off. Oh, I do have a filter in there. So there's the filter in there, threaded inside. There's the back of the refractor, and then it just screws in there. So the confusing part was, what was the confusing part? Oh, yeah. So there's this knob here. When you unscrew that, you can rotate it, but it's not unscrewing, it's just rotating. But when this is tightened, you tighten it tight, and then if you just twist on it, it'll come off there. So hopefully that helped, because it was a bit confusing. You wouldn't think, if this is loose, you'll just keep spinning it until the cows come home. This was my first Astro camera here, the Canon XSI. I bought this secondhand for 200 bucks, and I still use it. I took it apart and modified it myself. It's just a legendary camera. All right. Can you see Rudy on the screen yet? He's right. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. He's a good boy. Wow. Okay, let's rotate this back and get back to the questions. Sorry, guys, if you ask something, just ask again. Peck Train the Skywatcher EQ6R, is there a noticeable benefit? I have not. So when I was doing my review, I looked into the manual in depth, and I looked at how it was done. It looked super interesting. It's on my to-do list. I will say with stuff like that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've had the guiding and accuracy and the tracking accuracy of the EQ6R has been so good that I don't want to introduce problems by making a mistake trying to over-optimize with that PEC training. So I think it's great that the feature's there, but for someone like me, I probably won't touch it because I don't see a need to. If I did, it would just be for curiosity. I don't see a need for it. I think it's important that mounts have that feature because there's people that want to tweak and they want to improve. So I get it. There's people that obsess about their PhD2 guiding graph and that they're to precision accuracy. I'm not one of those people. If I see round stars in the 5-minute sub, I'm good. Lightweight self-powered setup. So this Star Adventurer, and I hope this is what you mean. The cool thing I like about this one is that there are AA batteries in here. So I love the internal batteries in like the SkyGuider Pro and the Sky Tracker Pro. You can charge them with mini USB, and they're good for a long time. I thought this was really cool. AA batteries, because you're always going to have those. You'll never be stuck. You could be in the middle of the desert. As long as you have 4 extra batteries on you, you're not going to be left high and dry, and you won't need somewhere to charge it up. And you don't need power. I'm a big fan of, to me, a portable tracking mount should be portable and not need an external power supply. That if you saw my latest video where I compared some star trackers, including the Light Track 2, the Light Track 2 fits into another category, I think, because of the fact that it needs to plug into a power source. Picture I'm most proud of. It's funny, I remember I asked Dylan O'Donnell the same question, and he said it was the most recent picture he took. And that's kind of the way it goes for me too. So the most proud photo I am right now is the Heart and Soul Nebula. I haven't shared it anywhere yet because I never thought it would be possible to get a detailed photo of the Heart and Soul Nebula from my light polluted backyard, and I did that. I recently completed that photo, and I processed it for like 7 hours yesterday. It was ridiculous. I'm pretty proud of that one. It made me very happy because seeing the picture is what was in my head, visualizing as I'm taking the shots. I'm like, oh, I had a vision for what I wanted it to look like, and just seeing it on the screen, it was like it became real. Way behind on comments again. I make $10. Thank you so much, guys, for the super chat. That really blows me away when you guys do that, and it's not necessary, and I really appreciate it. Ooh, just starting and buying an 8-inch RC. I would imagine that you're into photographing, smaller targets like galaxies, and RC would be great for that. GSO, I used a, very similar. I used the Ioptron branded 6-inch RC. I'll say it went smoother than I thought it would with an RC because it's a completely different telescope type. I think I like using RCs better than I do reflectors because they're nice and compact. But that F ratio makes things really dim, so focusing was harder. Finding my target was harder. I was using it with a DSLR. And it magnifies those issues because it is so much longer reach. So starting out on an RC, you know what? Good luck to you. It might be a little bit tough at first because I had a bit of I had to overcome a few things, and I'm pretty experienced when I used an RC. Yeah, Nikon. The D810A is like if I saw a good deal on a used D810A, I would buy one in a heartbeat. Nothing against Nikon. I love. I've have I used one yet? I think I've just like held someone else's. Steve from Ontario Telescope has a Nikon. I got to shoot with it, and I think they're cool cameras. And the D810A, I've just seen way too many amazing images on Astrobin taken with them for me to not want to try one of those. So, um, yeah, I've got so many DSLR cameras. I mean, they're all getting old now, but now I want a 6D Mark II, and I need a new camera for filming. I film my videos on an old 5D Mark II, which is ancient. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. The EOS RA full frame. Very interested in that. Although I'm sure it's going to be pretty pricey. The D750 and the D850. Nice, Sean. And those are those modified? Joe, yeah, I just tweeted that yesterday that I guess it's confirmed that camera's coming out next year, the EOS RA. Yeah, it's going to be hard to justify for a lot of people depending on the price because the A means it's more sensitive to 656 nanometers for emission nebulae. So then it becomes, if say it is $2,500, $3,000, it's going to be tough to justify buying that over a dedicated astronomy camera for that price. That being said, there's a big difference in the user experience between using an dedicated astronomy camera and a DSLR, and there's something to be said about the fun of using a DSLR. Kyle, yeah, 70K, I know, eh? I wanted to hit 100 this year, and I thought it was a lofty goal, and I don't think I'm going to do it, but it seems like it will happen eventually now. Smartphone astrophotography, it's a topic I've been wanting to cover for so long now. I've got some nice Pentax eyepieces that I want to try out to capture planetary objects, the moon and the planets and everything with my smartphone. I just got a Samsung, I'm looking for it, I'm filming on it. I got a Samsung Galaxy S10, which has a much better camera than my old S7. Yep, totally, Razine. I 100% agree. So yeah, about the DSLR camera versus the dedicated astronomy camera. Once I was so hesitant to switch to, I was calling it a CCD camera like a moron at the beginning because 10 years ago, that's all there was. These new CMOS cameras weren't around. So I'm switching to CCD astrophotography. And you're totally, everything changes, right? You don't have that screen, you don't have that user interface. It's just this cylinder on the back. Everything's controlled through software. You have to worry about your power supply and the cooling and everything. So once you get over that and you familiarize yourself with the camera, you do realize the difference between taking subs at minus 15 and minus 20. And you get used to the images coming out, and then you shoot with your DSLR and they're coming out at 25 degrees Celsius and they're just cooking the sensor and they're full of noise. You do get used to seeing those cooled images out of a dedicated astronomy camera. But I mean, I live somewhere where it's very cold, like even in the fall now, it'll go down to like 5 at night. So those DSLR images are not so bad really. And you can calibrate a lot of that out. Saw something from Sean there. Bought a William Optics mount for my Skyguider Pro. Made all the difference in the world. Thanks for the tip. Awesome. Yes. Okay. So you're talking about the wedge, which you can see here, it was an upgrade kit right here. Tripod's on a bit of an angle there. Yeah, so it's definitely not necessary, but it beats the stock version that came with the Skyguider Pro. Yeah, and I hope it doesn't seem like I'm just like, pushing the Skyguider Pro on you guys and saying you should get one. I tend to talk about the stuff that I use a lot, and that says a lot about it too. If I use it a lot, it means it's been good to me. But I'm anxious to try the Star Adventure as well. Why not PixInsight? Yeah, what is your philosophy on post-processing? So with Photoshop, I feel like I have complete control over the data. There's nothing, when I'm looking at an image, I'm not looking at it and saying like, there's no confusion. Every step I make to it is intentional. So when it's a very powerful feeling saying, okay, well, what do I want to do with the stars? What do I want to do with those colors? What do I want to do with the bright areas of the image? Having that kind of control, is great, right? Then the image, I can process it exactly the way I want to, without being, I'm limited only by my data. And that happens a lot. If I've only got an hour or two on a subject, you can only do so much to it. You can only pull it so far before you've kind of reached its limit. But with great data, I feel like I can, do anything I want with it with Photoshop. So until I feel like, I'm really missing out on processing, my images are being really held back, I guess I'll switch to PixInsight, but I just don't see that happening. Right now, the biggest reason why I want to start using it and talking about it is just because you guys bring it up so much, and I want to have a well-rounded astrophotography channel, and I feel like someone like me not talking about something that everybody uses is kind of, it's not great. So I might have to force myself into it, but we'll see. Hope that made sense. 5 is warm. Calgary's going on to -5. Larry, you guys out west, that's real Canadian winters and weather. So not only are you a little bit higher up, oh, my light died. Is it actually dead? Oh, one of my lights died. Not only are you farther up in latitude, which makes, the low objects in the Milky Way that much harder, but your weather is so much more extreme. I'm in southern Ontario. So I remember Chuck from Chuck's Astrophotography, he was like, oh, Canada's sending all those forest fires my way. It's Trevor's fault. But I think I might even be a little bit lower geographically than Chuck, because I'm right down at the bottom of southern Ontario. And so it was not my fault. It was Larry and Calgary's fault. Jeff, okay, appreciate that. This, is the super chat makes the messages stand out, that's for sure. How would you compare exposure times from a 5D Mark II and a newer cooled ZWO? Resensitivity, not noise. Okay, wow, there you go. Exposure times in terms of sensitivity, not noise. You know what? So if we're going apples to apples, a 5-minute ISO 1600 sub under dark skies, maybe not 1600, 800 versus, a cooled astronomy camera, the sensitivity is going to be a lot closer than I think people realize. It really is the noise that is the difference. So it's a better signal to noise ratio, but is the signal that much stronger? I'm not so sure. I can see those faint structures are there, but it's just hidden under a layer of noise. So I think the photons collected, and we're talking about a color dedicated astronomy camera versus a DSLR. Mono, of course, is going to collect more signal, but the sensitivity, I know there's going to be graphs that say that probably the ASI camera is going to have a stronger sensitivity, but just for me reviewing the images, I think it's a lot closer than what people think. These DSLRs are extremely capable. They're still very, what's the word? I can't think of the word. They're very relevant. It's still very relevant to use a DSLR for astrophotography. It's not like it's, high-res planetary, I know. Again, that's another side of astrophotography. I call my channel an astrophotography channel without doing planetary. I know a lot of the other guys do the solar imaging and stuff. Astrophotography is so broad. I've obviously isolated into deep sky astrophotography, and that's where my heart is. And as silly as this sounds, the reason I haven't done more planetary astrophotography is simply because, say I get 15 hours of clear sky time per week, and that's pretty realistic. I'm going to spend every second of those 15 hours on a deep sky object, as opposed to a planet. I know there's when the full moon is out and the skies are kind of iffy, that's when I should be shooting planetary stuff. There's just only so many clear sky hours in the night. That's why I don't do more of that stuff, but I am so interested in it. I feel like when I get an observatory and I have a more permanent setup and I can be running my camera, everything happens a lot quicker. I can get set up quicker. I'm running my deep sky stuff. Then on the side, I can do some more stuff with the planetary astrophotography. But I realize that there's a huge audience of people interested in, you see Rudy here, interested in that side of things. That's where I started, was close-ups of the lunar craters, and seeing a high-resolution photo of Jupiter and the cloud bands, or Saturn, is just incredible. Mars, I love my best Mars photo is atrocious. Entry-level mount for the William Optics GT71. So you're just past Star Tracker. So I would say the Skywatcher HEQ5 or EQ6R Pro, I mean, that's going a little bit farther. The Orion Sirius, that level, the Celestron AVX. The thing about those mounts is, yes, they're the next step because they're go-to equatorial mounts, and they're very capable for astrophotography. They're just in that middle ground where if you do get crazy and you want a 127 millimeter scope, you'll want to get a mount with a heavier payload capacity. So that's why if you kind of skip over that category and go for something like the EQ6R Pro, then you're kind of future-proof yourself. It's tough to give advice there, and then it comes into budget too. Okay, nobody special. You've been a big help. Have a beer on me. I really appreciate that. I will make sure to have a beer from Nobody Special. Probably my favorite super chat I've ever got. Portal 6 Andromeda. Yes, the answer to that, the way around that is just going to be to pile on the integration time. So that's about what I am. I'm a Bortle 6-7 on the Bortle scale, and broadband targets are tough. You've got that signal is hidden behind a bright sky. So if you really layer on the exposure time, it would take you probably about 12 hours of exposure time to get what you would get in 1 or 2 hours from a dark sky site. That's the best way around it. And then a really good light pollution filter for your location. People argue whether to use a filter at all for broadband targets, but something mild like the Optilong L Pro, I would probably recommend that. I really like the IDIS, what the heck was it called? The NGS1. The IDIS NGS1 had some really beautiful star colors. I like that one too. That's a newer one. I've been using IDIS filters. Bortle 10,000, Sean. I know, so Baton Rouge, right? Rudy's home state, Louisiana, which is, so for guys like that, and Chuck Ayub from Chuck's Astrophotography, what an ambassador for light pollution. I'm positive he's got it brighter than me in Detroit. I'm not sure how close he is to the downtown, but he's narrowband almost exclusively for that reason. And if he takes APOD images with these narrowband filters. So that's pretty incredible. There's no excuse. Light pollution is no longer an excuse. You just have to work for it a little bit harder. I'm not saying you're making excuses, Sean. Sean takes amazing narrowband photos as well. Rudy's from the south. Yeah. Rudy was found, I think I've said this before, Rudy was found as a puppy in a garbage can, in a dumpster in Louisiana when he was like a month old. And so his full name is Rudolph. He was found with, I guess it's 7 other puppies that they named after reindeer. And then they brought them up to Canada to find an adopter. And he was Rudolph. We got him at 9 months old. So he was the most special pup in that litter. Chuck, you're there. How's it going, buddy? I don't have to ask what time it is there. You're not too far away from me. So I was just mentioning how, you know what, I'm up in Canada, but I think I might even be, I'm at 43 degrees north. Way in southern Ontario, so close to like Niagara Falls and Buffalo, New York. But if I drove west out to Windsor, I'd be right in Detroit, and I gotta visit you sometime, Chuck. Poor Rudy, people can be awful. Yeah, I know. Things worked out for him though. They worked out. Yeah, it's like his destiny. He went from a really bad place to you know, he couldn't have a better life. He's getting treated the way a child would be treated. Awesome. Yeah, I'm not always in the mood to do something like this, but I had everything set up for a video I was shooting here in the living room. It's kind of a rainy day. My wife's at work. I'm sitting with Rudy, had a coffee, and yeah. Okay, that Ioptron Smart EQ Pro is an interesting mount, and I wasn't totally. It wasn't on my radar until I saw that people were using it, because I believe that one has batteries inside and it has a go-to hand controller. So that's a really great next step up from a star tracker, because a lot of people have trouble finding targets with these star trackers because, man, I wish this was a wider, this is so narrow. People have trouble finding targets with these star trackers because they're not go-to, and a lot of this stuff is dim, right? So let's say you're roughly pointed towards your target here, and then you turn the declination bracket and you've got it here, and you don't see your object. It's not in the field of view, so you make a slight adjustment and oh, now it's there, taking a 30-second test exposure. And I mean, you can use these arrows to slew it, to fine tune it. I don't know if you can see it moving slowly in the RA, but so that's the whole point, is that Smart EQ takes away that, but yet it's about the size and the complexity of a star tracker, yet it has that go-to capabilities and the battery power. So I think it's really cool. I haven't used one myself. I saw a Sky and Telescope review of that, and it looked like a really cool mount, and kind of a, you know, middle ground between a star tracker and something like the HEQ5. You need coffee, you'll be back. I imagine, is there anyone watching at work? I remember I follow a few YouTubers, and they would go live unannounced, and I could listen on my headphones at work, and people would ask me questions and I wouldn't answer because I was listening to something. What should you shoot with a wide angle lens tonight? I love that question. So close to new moon with a wide angle lens. So depending on where you are, your dark. If you're blessed with dark skies, I would probably shoot something in Taurus. So I would capitalize on the fact that it's new moon, shoot Pleiades in that area of Taurus, because there's a lot of dark dust in there too. There's I think it's the Taurus molecular cloud. I would spend a lot of time shooting wide in the direction of Pleiades, and because you're going to get Pleiades for sure, and the longer you expose it, you're going to get some of the blue reflection nebulosity in the dust, but you might even get some of that star blocking brown dust in that area too. That's kind of the area I thought about shooting for the star party I'm going to tomorrow. Nice, watching from home office. Yes, you're at work. Love it. I'm not sure what you do for a living, Rosine, but I know you're good with the camera and everything too. So I would imagine it's something within that realm, because you're good at what you do. Yeah, someone asked me, I love that people are talking about Nina. So it's the free open source software for image control. I'm super interested in it. I need to download it, take a look at it. Yeah, it's like it's the age-old problem, is that for testing new gear, you have to test it properly to do it under clear skies, and when that's happening, I want to make sure I'm capturing data. So it's hard to test and do that at the same time. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna try out Nina very soon. I was very impressed. Hi, Kevin. Joint session, Tim, Dylan, others. Yes. Joint live Q&A, definitely. I want to do something like that. The ASI Air, yes, I am still using that. I haven't in a little while. It's still on one of my other rigs. Yeah, there's so many ways to run an image sequencing program. So APT is what I use most often, but sometimes I use an intervalometer for a small setup like this. The ASI Air is great. I haven't used the new focuser from ZWO, the EAF. I've seen good results from that. I have not used their new polar finder feature. So yeah, it's cool. That I bought the tablet just for the ASI Air. I just haven't been doing that. I think a big reason is because it's been so nice outside. I've been spending a lot of time outside anyway. Whereas earlier in the spring and in the winter, I was using it a lot more because I wanted to sneak into the house when the session was running. Yeah, the EAF. I know a lot of people are using that. That's motorized focusers are a whole different animal. And overall, I think they're great. You really start to get into a fully automated setup when you get into that realm. And because I spend so much time outside with the rig, manual focus is not a big deal to me. So it's not a necessity, I don't believe. Mark using the ASI Air all the time now, the Skyguider Pro. It's been a big help finding targets and polar alignment. That's great. Yeah, a lot of people, I didn't even connect it to my mount to control it that way too. I used it very bare bones just to do the auto guiding and setting my image sequence. Favorite nebula to photograph? That's the way you worded that. I can answer that. My favorite nebula to photograph. It's not my favorite nebula or my favorite picture, but my favorite nebula to photograph is the Lagoon Nebula. And my wife Ashley would roll her eyes. She'd be like, "What are you shooting tonight?" I'll be like, "The Lagoon," and she's like, "That's all you shoot." It's because it's just in there's such a short window to shoot it in the summer, and it's so incredibly beautiful and big and pink, and there's depth to it. And the longer you shoot it, the wider it gets, and the more detail you can pull out of it. It's just so gorgeous. Anytime, like it's hard for me to justify photographing other objects when the lagoon is out. And I've heard people say that about mounts. Like I know Dylan feels that way about Karina, which he named his car Karina too, which I'm not surprised in the least. Good software for identifying labeling DSOs apart from Stellarium. Um, that's difficult because I use Stellarium. It's my go-to on my computer and on my phone. Oh, what's it called? It's on my phone, so I can't. Is it called Starry Night? Starry Night Pro? That one's good too. It's even. I think it's got way more features. I paid like $20 for the app. Um, it's got more features than Stellarium, and I keep forgetting I have that. I've just been using Stellarium for so long. Missed your chance to shoot the lagoon. I know. Yes, you'll have to wait until next summer. So glad to hear that I've inspired you. That's if I could wish for one thing from the audience, it's that someone that wasn't into astrophotography is now into it because of what I share. That's my absolute favorite. Sky Safari Pro. Thank you. Thank you. That's what it's called. Sky Safari Pro. It's really nice actually. Really nice. That one looks good. I have it on my tablet. You can go really deep on the objects there. So I recommend that one. O3 worth it on a DSLR. Okay. So that's a great question. Whether it's worth it to use an O3 filter on a DSLR. I'm not so sure. So in my experience using a color camera with narrowband filters, HA is a no-brainer. So an HA filter for your DSLR, like if you saw that video, that's a no-brainer. Do that immediately. O3, you're really gonna have to pile on the exposure time, maybe on some objects up to 10 hours. And that being said, it's only going to be certain objects where it's going to be worth it to do that, where there's a lot of oxygen, like the Veil Nebula would be great. Probably the Lagoon, ton of targets it would be worth it, but it's just going to be a very weak signal, and you're really going to need a lot of integration to make it worth your while of shooting O3. And at that point, should you be spending 10 hours with a color camera shooting in just O3? At that point, if you really want that O3, maybe you want to think about a mono camera and an O3 filter. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. So an HA filter makes complete sense for a color camera or DSLR. O3 is, I'm not so sure. So get a dual bandpass filter makes sense. So L-enhance or the Nebula Booster from IDIS, or the Triad filter, those ones, then you'll get a little bit of O3, a little bit, and H beta as well with the HA. So then it makes sense as opposed to just an O3 filter. There you go, another great one. The Rosette is great in O3. It's on the inside. It's got that nice cool colors on the inside with the rippling HA around it. What a beautiful target. I need to reprocess my Rosette. I've been going through a lot of my old images because I didn't even say it. I have an image processing guide. A few of you guys know about it now. It's about 120 pages. It's the step-by-step process I follow to stack and process all of my astro photos. The link is in the description for this Q&A if you want to download it. It's 26 bucks. It includes lifetime updates, so I'm going to keep updating and adding pages. I added a video to it 2 days ago on Deep Sky Stacker. It's kind of like my premium processing guide that's way too big to put in a single video or to put on my website. So that guide's available for processing. But using that guide, I've went back and processed a lot of my old data, and I've gotten way more out of it using some of the techniques that I use. So that's another great thing about astrophotography. If you have really good data, you can process it later as you progress your skills, and it's so much fun. If you can take great images, great data, if you get good at that, you can, 10 years down the road, reprocess it and bring even more detail out as you improve your skills. Yeah, so that's exactly what I use there, the OPT quad band filter through one-shot color. The image that really impressed me with that filter was the Lagoon and Trifid Nebula. I was really blown away with that. I shot at ISO 6400 by accident with my Canon 60DA. And the photo turned out amazing. And it was, rather natural looking colors considering it was shot through, a narrowband multi-band pass filter. A filter is just expensive. That's the only thing. If you can get over the price, I think it's a useful filter to use with a DSLR. Comet hunting. No, I need to, the last comet I photographed was back in December. There were 10 and 46p. That's a great question. Okay, natural colors for light pollution. So yeah, there's so many choices out there. The Optolong L Pro was very impressive. I like that one. It really depends on the exact camera you're using and the exact sky conditions you're under, but and if your camera's modified or not. So with a modified camera, the Astronomic CLS CCD filter is great. The IDIS LPS filter was great with my modified camera. But most recently, the one I want to mention is the IDIS NGS1 filter. I used that with my Canon 60DA recently on the Cocoon Nebula, and the star color was really impressive. Holy smokes, I didn't think we're over an hour. How did that happen? What do you think of that, buddy? My pleasure. Any opinion on astronomic filters? So they're made in Germany. I've talked to the owner before, and they've been around for a long time, and they really know what they're doing. So the Astronomic 12 nanometer HA was the first astronomic filter I ever owned. I still use it today. They really know their stuff. I've used actually, if Sean's still on, I purchased his 48 millimeter Astronomic 12 nanometer HA 03 and S2 filters, which were great. Yeah, for me to see the difference between Astronomic and some of the other manufacturers, it's really tough. And I don't have the perfect testing environment or sky conditions to say which one's better than the other, but I've really enjoyed my Astronomic filters. And I can confidently say that because I know they're well regarded in the astrophotography community as well. Yeah, I don't know if that 72 ED is the best option. I haven't used it, but I'm under the impression that those ED doublets from Skywatcher are a great value. If you're a triplet APO, it's going to be probably an improvement, but those doublets are great for astrophotography in general. Yeah, so a guide scope is definitely the biggest thing for me about a guide scope, and you've been staring at the bottom of it for this entire video. So auto guiding is great because even if you have a great mount, say the HEQ5, and you're taking a 3-minute exposure, you might start to see that, you max out. There's going to be a little bit of, oblong stars on a 3-minute exposure just from that tracking error, the periodic error. So guiding gets you around that, and then all of a sudden you can take 5-minute images confidently with pinpoint stars every time because you've got this little guide camera and guide scope combo that's guiding things. And yes, it does introduce more complexity because you're using a guiding software like PhD2. But once you get that worked out, it really opens the doors up for some fainter targets that you can shoot and some new projects. So this is the ASI 290mm Mini, which is a great ZWO guide camera, very sensitive. I've had good luck with this one. And I can't remember what my point was there. So, the biggest thing is dithering. So when you're communicating with your telescope mount with a guide scope on that guide star, you can dither between each frames. And if you don't know what dithering is, it basically shifts the image frame slightly between each frame, and it overlaps those noise pixels on top of each other to kind of cancel each other out. And the difference between an image with 30 images that have been dithered and one that hasn't is pretty dramatic. It'd be a much smoother image when you dither between each frame. And then you'll avoid stuff like walking noise too. If there is a slight error in your tracking and your images are just slowly shifting ever so slightly between each frames, when you stack them, you'll see this awful streak noise pattern going through it. And that's where dithering really helps. It's not essential, so obviously I don't dither or guide when I'm using the star trackers, although both of the ones I just mentioned are capable of it. It is nice to have when you're, investing in a deeper project. Good mount for your RC, so it's a bit heavier, bit bulkier. I used the CM60 for that when I had one on loan there. So any mount that's capable of a 30, 40 pound payload is going to be more than enough for an RC, a 6-inch, 8-inch. So the EQ6R Pro, I keep mentioning. I'm so behind. Okay, yes, I have tried off-axis guiding. I made a video about it. I did it using the, what was the make of that one? The Lumicon Easy Guider, and I did it with my ZWO camera through the Red Cat. And yeah, so it was a bit tricky finding the guide star, finding the balance between focus between the two cameras. Wasn't too bad. I eventually did, and the guiding was great. In that scenario, I didn't notice that it was an improvement guiding at the focal length of my primary imaging telescope, but avoiding flexure in the rig and improved guiding because you're using a longer focal length are the benefits of off-axis guiding. Also keeping it down, not having the additional guide scope. It makes a lot of sense for most people. I've actually got a camera that I'm going to be demoing very soon, a Starlight Express with a filter wheel that has an off-axis guider in there. Chuck has it. Chuck, what's that? What's your guider called from Starlight Express? The Lodestar. So I'll be using that soon. That whole setup is a work in progress. Did I miss any super chat? I don't want to miss any super chat questions. I don't think so. Yep, Lodestar X2. That's the one. That's quite the reputation for as far as guide cameras go in the astrophotography community. The Lodestar is just legendary. Yeah, the filter wheel's green, really cool looking. So it's that SX42 package from Skywatcher. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag completely about that rig, but it's pretty impressive. If you see me two-handing the coffee, it's not that it's heavy. I have kind of a shaky wrist. It's from years of, I was a drummer for, maybe about 10 years. I was in a band, I was the drummer, and it just my wrist has been shot ever since. Also have tinnitus because of it. Just smashing the drums around 3 nights a week for 10 years. Thank you for joining, Margaret. I'm going to do more of these Q&As. 236 people on here right now. It's working out well. Still creating podcasts? Yes. So the last one came out, has it been 2 weeks now? Very spread out. Me and Steve from Ontario Telescope put those podcasts on. I know you guys enjoy them. They're a lot of fun to do. Uh, Steve and I both have super busy schedules, but we try to squeeze them in whenever we can. It's a lot of fun doing the podcast. Cool. Yes. Great mount. The HEQ5 um, has been a great mount. So that was technically the second astrophotography mount I got after my CG5 kind of kicked the bucket after, I think it was like 2 or 3 years of heavy, heavy use. It just, it had some issues. Recommendations for targets that can be shot unguided. Okay, so your exposure times will be limited, so you want the brighter targets. And right now, you could do, I would do Pleiades if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, is a great target that just comes to mind. You could do that using 60-second exposures. You get a lot of detail. If you stack 160-second exposures together with Pleiades, that's something you do unguided. That will turn out just great. And also for unguided, spend the time to get your polar alignment just absolutely bang on. You'd be surprised at how long you can go when your polar alignment and your balance. So in both axes, the deck and the RA, make sure it's just totally balanced. So it's just effortless for that your mount to operate. And then your polar alignment, you'd be surprised at how far you can actually shoot unguided. I really don't know if they discount mounts in North America over the winter months. I know that obviously Q4 there's going to be it's a big season for these companies, so I would expect there to be sales on stuff mounts specifically. I don't know, but although I think some of the really popular ones are due for it. For sure. I wouldn't be surprised if something like the EQ6R had a sale, or definitely the stuff from Celestron will too. I do have connections with some of these companies, but stuff like that I'm not really in on. Yes, that's very true. So a compact APO is not great for planetary imaging. That planets are going to be so small. They're not great for visual either. So, um, so a telescope that's great for visual and not great for astronomy is going to be on the flip side. You know what I'm trying to say. Compact APO is no good for planetary photography. How do you learn what targets work best in narrowband versus broadband? Not waste time. Great question. So now I know from experience with a lot of the stuff because I've made mistakes trying to shoot things using the wrong combination of gear before. But go on Astrobin or Flickr and do a search for specific targets. Find a version that you like. See the equipment that was used. You'll oftentimes on Astrobin you'll see the exact filter they used, the exact camera to get a better indication of what a better road to success. That's why Astrobin is great when people have filled out all of the gear that they've used, because then you're not guessing anything. But in general, for narrowband filters, targets that are emitting a lot of hydrogen are going to look great with an HA narrowband filter, and then oxygen for O3, and S2 is kind of the wild card. I've never used a Takahashi refractor. They make world-class refractors. Some of the William Optics scopes I've used, like the Red Cat, I would imagine, are getting close to the type of quality that the Takahashis have. Is there a discount at NEAF? I know that High Point Scientific has a NEAF sale, so the showroom floor stuff. I think everybody has some sort of promotion going on at NEAF. So if you're in the area, it would be a great time to buy at NEAF because you can talk to the retailers. The only thing is if you're flying there like me, you can't bring a mount home with you on the plane. You'd have to get it shipped. Oh, awesome. My son calls you Astro Backyard again. That's funny. I can't believe I haven't heard that yet. Uh, it's really nice to hear that. So color versus mono, here's the deal. Mono is definitely the way to go if you're serious about astrophotography and you want to get the most out of maximize the signal that you collect. Narrowband filters, you can do these deep projects. It would be a waste of time to work on any serious project with narrowband filters with anything but a monochrome camera. No doubt about that. The problem is there's those serious projects. That's a whole different world of astrophotography. So if you're investing, so look at Chuck Ayub. He dedicates 10, 15, 20 hours to a project. He leaves the scope running. He's got a proven setup that works. He's inside the house and he's rewarded for it. These APOD worthy images of so incredible, like scientific pictures. The problem for me with that, the reason I don't do it more, is that I've limited clear sky time. So say I get, I'll get one clear night a week, and even that night I only get 5 clear hours. I want to shoot a video that I can share with you guys, and I want actually something to show for it. I can't just sit in the background working on a project for weeks and weeks on end. I want instant results. So for me, it's a lot of fun, even though my images are being sacrificed by it. I get to get that full story in a single night because I can complete an image in color in 4 hours. And yes, maybe that's not the right way to go, but I'm just having way too much fun doing that. And then if I'm lucky enough, I'll get 2 or 3 nights in color on it. And then all of a sudden you're getting an image that's kind of comparable to what you would get using a mono camera. So that's kind of how I feel about that. I know there's, a lot of people will disagree with that. See, isn't that funny? So Chuck just said, I would love to finish projects in one night like you. I'm envious. And I'm envious of actually dedicating myself to a project over a month and a half where I finally collect 10 hours in each signal, in each bandpass to create a full, masterpiece image like he's creating. So there you go. Either way you choose to do it is fine. It really annoys me when people say, so if you want to do astrophotography, you need to get a mono camera or you're an idiot, because you'd be stupid to waste your time doing anything else. The problem is a lot of these people getting into astrophotography it's like they're running their first 5K race and they're getting advice from people that are doing a triathlon saying how to prepare for that. And they're getting scared away. Start with baby steps and enjoy. You don't have to go, like, my goal isn't to become the greatest astrophotographer of all time. My goal is to have as much fun as possible and I think I got addicted to the feeling of being outside and collecting images and the excitement of it all. And I'm just trying to sustain that feeling forever. So that's kind of where I'm at there. Rudy is having a dream and twitching and kicking me. Andromeda. No, do not. Well, you can do planetary astrophotography with a Barlow lens, a 2-ton Barlow lens. That's great to get that extra magnification, but that will come at the cost of some clarity. But for prime focus deep sky astrophotography, you don't want to use a Barlow to double that magnification. You're limited to the fixed focal length of the telescope you're using. I think that is going to do it, guys. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Have I been to London? I've been to London, Ontario. No, I have not been to London, England. I've never been to the UK. Thank you guys very much for the kind words. I'm going to wrap this up. Hopefully I didn't ramble too long, and hopefully you got something out of this Q&A session. I definitely will do more of these. Hopefully this is good enough to share on the channel and just to keep it there in case someone else wants to watch it after the fact. I'm gonna have to look into why my new light I just bought on Amazon died. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys coming out, and special thank you to everyone that did the super chat. You didn't have to do that. I really appreciate it. And until next time, clear skies.